Okay, these were awesome when they were new, but these days, you want to know what goes wrong with them? You want to know what they're like to drive and live with? Most importantly, do you want to know if you should buy one or not? Let's find out. Okay, so here's a fun fact. These things share very nearly the same power to weight ratio as the original Mazda MX-5 Miata. Not that the MX-5 is renowned for its straight line speed, but with the engine up the front and power sent to the rear wheels, they are famous for their balance, handling, and just sheer driver enjoyment. Well, guess what? With the Lexus, the engine is there and the power is sent back there. So on paper at least, this should be awesome to drive. Plus, it's still like a practical four-door sedan. But in saying that, depending on where you're watching this from, you might be able to get these as like a practical five-door wagon, or sport cross as it's called, or you might know this as a Toyota Altezza. But look, you know what, no matter what it's called in your local market, these things were pretty much like every established luxury brand's worst nightmare. See, the Lexus offered class-leading build quality, funky styling, and arguably the best ride and handling in its class. And the IS was a hit from the start and was something of like a message of intent from Lexus to its European rivals like the BMW 3 Series, Mercedes-Benz C-Class, and even to a lesser extent, the Audi A4 and the Jaguar X-Type. Now, while these have been available across 3 generations, in this video, we're just going to be focusing on the first, which has been available here in Australia with 2 engines, either a manual or an automatic transmission, depending on the model, and over 6 different trim specs. While the Lexus sends its power exclusively to the rear wheels, you can get 4-wheel drive models within the Altezza range. Actually, speaking of the Altezza, which is only available here in Australia as a grey import, depending on the model, it can also feature a very punchy 4-cylinder engine as well as the pair of 6s. Now, Lexus gave these an update in 2001. They basically improved and updated, you know, the tech, the interior, a whole bunch of other stuff. And as far as pricing goes here in Australia, on the used market, you're looking at anywhere from about $4,000 for the very cheapest ones, up to about 25 grand for the most expensive. And with this combination of rear-wheel drive, excellent balance and handling, and a low cost of admission, look, it's no wonder that these are an extremely popular platform to modify. And if you are in the market for one of these and you do plan on modifying it, well, why not like wrap up all of those expenses into like the one finance package? So to check out the very best finance packages that are customized to suit your needs, either hit the driver link down there or head to ReDriven.com and check out the driver-powered car loan calculator on the Lexus IS cheat sheet. That way you can apply easily online. There are no hidden fees. Doing all this, it's going to have no impact on your credit rating, and you can get pre-approval in just minutes. Plus, do all that via the links, and we're going to give you a free $150 fuel voucher. Plus, if you hit the WiperTech link down there, you're going to get free express shipping and 15% off some of the, honestly, the best wiper blades we've ever used. Guys, they're easy to order online. They're going to be delivered to your door. They're easy to fit, and they're going to wipe rain off your windscreen the same way these wipe the smiles off the BMW and Mercedes executives' faces. Okay, now let's talk looks for a second here. Personally, I love the way these look. I love the dimensions. I love the overall design. It's funny as well. I feel like they've been through that period where they kind of didn't look cool, but with everything late 90s and early 2000s becoming cool again, these have kind of come into their own. But I have an issue, and it's verging on blasphemy for like Lexus fans. I'll show you, come with me. It's these, the famous Lexus IS rear tail lights. Look, props to Lexus for having a go at, or Toyota for having a different go at some design here, but I was just never into it. The issue I have is that these inspired a whole bunch of other people modifying their cars to stick like Lexus style rear taillights on other cars, and it just doesn't work. I just think if this was just a simpler design rather than being kind of all flashy with clear and red, it's just all too busy. But look, aside from the tail lights, I love the whole thing. One thing I forgot as well is just how small these are. Fun fact, this is actually smaller than the current model Toyota Corolla. Like, imagine if Toyota went, oh, hey guys, we're going to release a rear-wheel drive 6-cylinder Corolla. Everyone would be in love with the thing. Well, there's no need, because here it is. Okay, so talk about controversial. I remember when these things first came out, and a lot of motoring journalists were up in arms at the odd collection of materials and textures in here, well, let alone the instrument cluster that looks like some sort of, like an enlarged Seiko Panda. Personally, I really dig this. I love that a conservative company like Toyota/Lexus have done something like this. Okay, it can be a bit of a challenge to read when you're driving, but like, whoever looks at that anyway? Also, after 20 years, I still think that looks super cool. I am obviously a Seiko fan, so this kind of, I don't know, it connects with me. Otherwise, seating position. Now, this is interesting. Now, there's not a lot of adjustability here. For me, the seating position feels excellent. I love this. Although, the side bolsters are quite aggressive. So if you're like copious of booty, this might not be very comfortable because it's almost feeling like a kind of Recaro style race seat. It's tight on my bum. Now, as far as wear and tear in this particular car goes, look, everyone is going to be different. Every example is different depending on what you're looking at. This thing's, you know, around 20 years old, nearly 150,000 Ks on the clock. And the wear and tear is interesting. So the fabric is great. Fabric everywhere, really good condition. Even the seats, like they're holding up beautifully. But then the plastics, like plastic here, all this plastic's wearing really, really nicely. But then these high traffic areas, the paint's all kind of coming off. Plus it's become brittle and the clips have snapped, so this has come loose. This kind of weird soft touch effect, I think it's called devulcanizing. It's like, it has seen better days. And even up here, it's really, yeah, it's getting a bit kind of almost a little gross on the dashboard and whatnot. Steering wheel leather has lost all of its texture and it's well past being restored. This is gonna have to be reupholstered. But yeah, aftermarket gear knob, so that's gonna be fine. It's, you know, like for the age and the kilometers in the car and the kind of use it gets, it does get used on a daily basis. Wear and tear is as you'd expect. It's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. Actually, one thing with the wear and tear that is really good, all the switch gear, like everything you use feels solid and like purposeful still. Now, as far as practicality goes, you've got pretty decent sized door bins. You've got a spot here specifically designed for like fingernails and bits of dried flesh. There's a spot for all of your 10-cent pieces here. You've got a spot specifically designed for your phone under the infotainment system, which is interesting because this phone was, the smartphone was created after this car. I think that's right, yeah. There's also another spot that you could put your phone up here, but the problem is it's going to melt and fry all the electronics inside because it's just going to get hit by the sun through the windscreen. You know what's coming. It does have a cigarette lighter and an ashtray. Oh, that's interesting. The ashtray part has actually come out because it should be thrown in the bin because smoking is disgusting. You've got two cup holders here. This particular car is missing the divider to make it into two cup holders. It has become basically a muesli bar holder instead now. There's a tiny little armrest, and under the armrest, another little cubby hole here. Oh, and a glove box that is, yeah, pretty good size. That's it. Also, a negative with practicality, don't put your phone on the seat because when you accelerate, it vanishes into the rear. Now in the back seat, I'm exactly 15 centimeters taller than iconic 90s and early 2000s rapper IS Cube. See what I did there? This is in my driving position, and you know how I mentioned that this car's slightly smaller than a Corolla? It feels it back here. So look, the seats are comfortable enough. This is comfy from kind of waist up, but like my knees are kind of smashing against the back of the seat here. Not a whole lot of foot room. It's a nice enough place to be, but it's small. As far as the practicality back here, yeah, really good because it's pretty much all fabric. There's only one little bit of plastic here, but even that's kind of soft touch, but yeah, wear and tear, great. And then practicality in the back seat, you've got obviously pull down armrest here. You've got door bins, but they're really only good for things that have two dimensions. You've got map pockets, but you've got, all of this resonates with me, you've got a cool slide out twin cup holder, but they're so shallow and small, they're only really good for like real men's coffees, like piccolos and macchiatos, ristrettos, stuff like that. No big coffees here. And also this car in the rear ashtray has Vicks vapor drops, which will come in handy when you get emphysema from smoking. Now, as far as practicality in the boot goes, look, I'll be honest, it's one of the smallest boots in its class. Again, it's about the same size as a Corolla, so think a boot slightly smaller than a Corolla sedan. It's okay. Obviously the wagon Alteza's going to be way more practical and cooler because it's a wagon. Now guys, obviously with these things being around 20 years old, you can forget about, you know, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, really any phone connectivity as far as the standard infotainment system goes. You can even forget about like rear parking sensors or reversing cameras, any of that sort of stuff. The good news is all of that kind of tech is easily fitted with aftermarket gear. Plus there are some really nice fascias for the aftermarket Apple CarPlay, Android Auto screens. You can even get screens that replace the sometimes sat-nav systems up here because the sat-navs in these as standard are shit. But aside from the letdown in the stereo and I suppose infotainment system, the speakers themselves are still really, really, really good, and you're still going to get all of the stuff that you'd expect. But find a post-update example and you might be treated to a full leather interior, some extra interior features, and so much more. Now look, as far as safety goes, it is a small rear-wheel drive car that doesn't weigh a whole lot, that is also pretty popular with drifters. So if you run out of talent, yeah, you're going to be meeting an unsafe scenario with much enthusiasm. But to take you through what safety features that you can expect, we're going to cut to another voiceover, but this time It seems appropriate that we do this in like, yeah, that kind of late 90s, early 2000s FM radio kind of style.
Okay, welcome back, guys. So, standard safety equipment included 4 airbags, anti-lock brakes, traction control and front seat belts with pretensioners and load limiters. However, post that crazy update, the standard safety equipment was extended to include front curtain airbags, brake assist and electronic brake force distribution, while the IS200 Sports Luxury from June 2004 was also equipped with electronic stability control and traction control. But as always, for all the specific details, check out the cheat sheet on ReDriven.com.
Okay, so the last time I drove one of these was back in like, I think it was like 2009. And back then I was obsessed with like rally-inspired turbocharged cars, and anything with less than 250 kilowatts just wasn't even really worth my attention at all. And I really didn't want to like driving one of these, but I remember vividly back then, even after like 15 minutes of driving, it like got under my skin. So let's see if this thing still has the appeal that it did all the way back then. And also, I haven't driven this car yet. Sam, my wonderful offsider, drove this to the shoot. So you're going to witness this in real time. I don't know what this is like to drive. We're going to do this together. So, I know it's only been like 25 meters, but it already feels like one cohesive package. Now, what I mean, when you drive a car that's like, 20, 25 years old with this many kilometers on it, you quite often find that things obviously degrade, like the suspension or steering starts feeling a bit not so good, and it stands out. This car, like instantly, like, it feels good. Like everything feels like it's working together in harmony. Okay, now engine-wise, this is IS200, so it is the least powerful of all of them. I'm just going to back off to like very, very slow and floor it and to see what happens here. Get up to the speed limit. Yeah, okay. It's not fast. It doesn't feel fast, but at least the power is nice and linear, and when it revs out, like it's relatively okay, I guess. I'd be honest, the lack of power is a little bit of a letdown. But like transmission-wise, super, super smooth. It would be lovely if it had another couple of ratios. That's not going to happen. But like, there we go, like powering on. Yeah, it's okay. Now, handling-wise, okay, handling is nice. Like, no understeer. To put it in context, I may have had just a couple of little enthusiastic runs through some corners there. And the handling's fantastic. Feels really, really balanced. Standout part, the ride quality. Like, it rides beautifully. I was expecting it to either be like a bit boat-like after all of these years, or a bit sort of harsh and crashy, but it's not. The ride quality, this thing could teach a lot of brand new cars a thing or two about ride quality. Now, sounds-wise, the engine sounds fine. I suppose the 6-cylinder is always going to sound relatively okay. And even though like some of these plastics have seen better days, therefore I was expecting it to be like super rattly in here, but somehow it's not. There are no rattles, no squeaks, no weird noises at all. Like, we went and found some potholes before, and yeah, it sounds great. Now, one of the other issues, I suppose, with this particular power plant, they're not that fuel efficient. It is a 2-litre 6-cylinder, but they're pretty thirsty for what they are. And the 3-litre, the IS300, yeah, again, thirsty unit. Now, you might be thinking, hang on a sec, it's a Lexus, surely nothing goes wrong. Well, you'd be wrong, because there are a few issues. Let's start with the exterior. Now look, obviously these are aftermarket wheels. They're the gorgeous Enki RPF ones, I love these. But the standard alloy wheels are susceptible to corrosion. Now the windscreens can be a bit of a cause for concern, because there are some sporadic reports of some leaking, basically near the heater cable at the base of the windscreen. Okay, now this next one is not exactly, let's say, the car's fault as such, but after 2 decades of our harsh Australian climate, if they're not garaged and cleaned and polished properly, some of the paint can start to look a little bit worse for wear. But it's the same case for all of us, isn't it? Also, another one that isn't exactly the car's fault, but plenty of these get modified, and modified poorly. So just be on the lookout for like any drill holes from stupid big wings, or dodgy body kits, or just signs of bad taste. Also, these are incredibly popular with younger, let's say, very enthusiastic drivers, you know, guys that think they're some sort of like Mr. Drifter, people like that. So you've got to be on the lookout for any signs of accident damage, dodgy repair work, actually a whole bunch of other things. Go watch our Ultimate Used Car Buyer's Guide, it'll take you through what to look out for. Also, if the one you're looking at has a sunroof, make sure you check the left rear side of the boot, because that's where the drainage channels basically go down. And if the drainage gets blocked, water can leak out, and in worst case scenario, you can end up with a puddle of water in the boot. Now, remember how I mentioned that the standard infotainment systems kind of lack any sort of phone connectivity? Well, chances are these standard infotainment systems also lack any kind of life these days, because they're terrible. They all just break and fall apart. Even in saying that, the ones that replace them often are now probably 10 years old, so just replace even the aftermarket systems that are often fitted, just get a new system. Another common fault with the interior that even this car is suffering from is the dashboard getting this kind of weird, strange tacky effect, like the plastic is kind of biodegrading or devulcanizing. And also, as we showed you, and this is to be expected, like some of the plastic is getting pretty brittle at this age, so clips that hold this sort of stuff on, they can break and this stuff can come loose, and then the car ends up rattling like crazy. Also, if you're checking one of these out, just make sure that the heater blows heat equally from both sides of the interior of the car. If it's not blowing equally, or if it's blowing steam onto your windscreen, it might mean that the heater matrix is on its way out. The good news is it's a really cheap part. The bad news is it's a pain in the ass to replace. Now, before we get into mechanically what can go wrong with these, firstly, a massive thank you to Mr. Drifter for lending us his Lexus. You're a legend, mate. Also, a huge thanks to everybody in the Lexus IS owners groups that helped us research this video. We honestly couldn't have made this video without you. And finally, a massive thank you to you. See, with your support, ReDriven has become one of Australia's fastest growing automotive YouTube channels. We cannot thank you enough. But to all of you guys that haven't subscribed to our videos, look, we promise you, if you hit that subscribe button and support us, it's just going to allow us to make you bigger, better, and more videos. And all we really want to do is make the biggest and best car videos that we can for you. So thank you guys so much for your support. It means the world to us. Okay, now mechanically, what can go wrong with these? Well, look, I can't tell you, because I'm not a qualified mechanic. But you know who is? It's Jim.
So the three engines available in these, the 1G, the 2J and the 3SGE, are amongst some of the most reliable car engines ever made, really. The 1G, it's certainly no powerhouse, and it's not that popular with tuners, but it is a workhorse and it is super reliable. The 2-litre 4-cylinder, the 3SGE, which is in the Toyota Altezza, it's a bit of a hidden secret, really. That is a tuner engine from way back. They call it the Beams engine. It's the big brother basically of the 4AGE, and it is capable of some big revving horsepower, really good engine. And then the iconic 2J, look, it is just immensely popular with tuners, and in standard form pretty much will go forever. But if, like some, you want to hang a great big turbo off it and rev it to the moon, it might break in half, but yeah, in standard form, super reliable. Service-wise, they're all old school timing belt engines. Now the timing belts are due at 100,000 Ks, as are the platinum spark plugs, so that can be a bit pricey. And they're all at the age now, which the early ones are 24 years old, by the way. They're all at the age now where all the oil seals and gaskets are starting to get a bit hard, so you are going to see some oil leaks and some coolant leaks. And again, at this age, it's not just engine bay plastics that are an issue. Look, everything on the car, all the suspension bushings and basically everything that's made of rubber, brake hoses and oil lines, they're all going to need a bit of extra love and attention. So having said all that, if it's been well looked after and hasn't been completely ruined with dickhead mods and maybe kept in a garage at some point in its life, it's probably going to be more reliable than just about everything of that age, and probably more reliable than things at least half its age. So yeah, pretty bloody reliable.
Okay, so after all of that, should you buy one? I tell you what, you certainly shouldn't buy like a poorly modified or clearly abused example, unless of course you're buying one as some sort of a project car. It might seem attractive buying a cheap one now, but it is going to cost you much more in the long run. So spend a little bit more money and just go and get a really good one, which kind of, weirdly, that sort of answers the question, doesn't it? Yes, you should buy one because these are bloody awesome. Look, to some, the Lexus might not have the brand appeal, or it might lack a bit of the straight line punch of some of the European competition. But when you're on a budget, which many are when it comes to these, bulletproof reliability, affordable parts, labor, and a large support network just trump any of the allure that the Euro alternatives might have. And especially when it comes to the IS300. Look, I know a BMW 330ci or 330i technically has a better power to weight ratio, but the IS300 they're arguably better built, they have better reliability, the cost of parts and labor is going to be less, and guys, it has that 2J under the bonnet, and we all know what they're capable of. So therefore, not only should you buy one, you should buy one over pretty much every other car in its class. In fact, I'm kind of tempted by the Altezza wagon, or maybe even like a manual Altezza with the 4-pot. But are you? Like, would you buy one of these, or would you buy one of the European competition, or something completely different? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you next time. So just be on the lookout for any signs of, accident damage, dodgy repair work, for us to take you through what to check out. Go and watch our Ultimate Used Car Buyer's Guide. It'll answer, no it won't.